Some people speculate that the Minoan civilization could be what influenced the story of Atlantis. Right now we are at one of the oldest sites in history. This is the Knossos, which was the sort of capital of the Minoan civilization, which dates back over 3,000, almost 4,000 years ago. And that makes this a very, very interesting location to stay at. And with us, we have Rico again from that we met in Cebu. I don't know how much video I have of him, unfortunately, but yeah, he's a good mate of me. And we also have Tiks, who's a friend of Rico and a friend of me. This is just going to be a really quick tour because we got here 1 hour before it's closing, so it's going to be rather quick. One very interesting thing about the Minoan civilization is that we don't really know much about them. They have a lot of scripts that has been discovered, but there's no way to decipher the language. We don't know how the letters are, so it's a completely unknown language. Therefore, almost everything here has to be guessed for what they be used for. I really think it's really crazy to imagine that a lot of this is 4,000 years old, although it has been renovated in a kind of recent history, so not everything is original. And you also have to bear in mind that not everything here is exactly from the Minoan civilization, because it's not like this was suddenly abandoned. This was still inhabited long after the Minoan decline, up until Roman times, I think. So there's still some recent things here. So here we have, of course, a pillar that is very characteristic of these ruins, the red pillars. The only thing is that a lot of these pillars are part of a controversial past about this. Now Knossos, the guy who was responsible with restoring Knossos is Sir Arthur Evans, English explorer who eventually became responsible for the restoration. And a lot of the things that he did might not have been exactly as authentic as they should be. There was a lot of romanticization done to make it more appealing to the West. And one of them includes the pillars, which some people speculate are inverted, as in they're supposed to be the other way around. And also the roof is completely made up, but the reason why, we don't really know what kind of roof they had, but the reason why it's like this is because to protect the lower levels, of course. So just keep that in mind when you're here. Now, one thing about Minoans, they are not Greek, they are completely separate. There's nothing in common with Greeks and Minoans. Back then, who were Greeks were the Mycenaeans, I think it's pronounced, and they were basically more of a confederation of Greek tribes back then that are very different from the current Greeks. And here's the throne room, one of the most popular attractions here. I believe this is where the king used to sit. Now here's another controversy. The wall paintings are not authentic. I have no idea if they really look like that. Yeah, that's a recent kind of invention. But for sure they at least painted the walls red. But if they had these frescoes on the wall, we don't know. And this is also why, kind of semi-related, this is also why they called the Minoan. Because if you know about the Odyssey, Homer's Odyssey, there's this king called Minos. And Sir Arthur, he assumed that King Minos, where he reigned, was in Crete, and therefore the name Minoan from King Minos. Also the Minotaur is also sort of related, because the maze of the Minotaur should be somewhere around here. Supposedly, but we don't know. Bit of a problem. I ran out of memory on my camera and I don't have a spare card, so I need to use my phone again. Now, One thing I would like to say here outside this pillar is one theory I found very interesting. I should explain it for you too so you can hear. Now, one theory is that some people speculate that the Minoan civilization could be what influenced the story of Atlantis. Now, one thing, just to keep it short and just to kind of have a disclaimer on the clickbait, Atlantis is not real. It was never real. It's more of a metaphor made by Plato, the Greek philosopher, on the perfect state or perfect society, because the story goes as follows: that Athens was invaded by Atlantis, but then they managed to resist despite Atlantis' advanced technology and everything. And after the defeat, some years later, the gods lose favor of Atlantis and then decide to sink the city down to the bottom of the ocean. Now, this city, nobody can find it because it's not real, of course. But what I think is that the story of a city that was once mighty but then fell down, or sink to the ocean, is the Minoan civilization. Because the thing is, why this declined is that if you know Santorini is a beautiful place, but it's also sitting on top of a volcano, a really big volcano. Around 3,000 or 4,000 years ago, around 1600 BC, this volcano erupted. Really huge eruption that affected almost all of Europe, but specifically as Santorini is just straight north of Crete, this caused a huge tsunami that most definitely hit the island here. And the Minoan civilization relied heavily on ships to sustain their trade and military power. And with all this destroyed and a lot of the coastal settlements completely vanished, that paved the way for the decline. They no longer had their ships, and they became a prime target for northern Greek invaders or raiders. And it wasn't something that happened abruptly. This is a process that occurred over centuries. And they think that the last independent state of the Minoan eventually perished around 1600, 1400 BC. We don't know for sure because there's no documentation on this at all. So that's why I think this could be, what influenced Plato's story of Atlantis, because it was once a mighty civilization that eventually became lost to the sea, metaphorically speaking. What I really find so amazing about this is that you just need to think that a lot of this was built almost 3,000 years ago. That was a time where a lot of people in the world still lived in mud huts and hunted with sticks. But these people, they build palaces. I'm actually very glad or surprised that there's not so much people here, because this is the second most visited archaeological place after Akropolis. And there was a lot of people in Akropolis, I guess. Yeah. So I'm pretty happy that there's very few people here. Makes this much more enjoyable. It's actually, 7:30. We are around here 7 o'clock. Therefore, this is a good time, to be honest, because it's not very, scorching hot, and you can do this at the end of the day. But many recommend you to stay here for at least 2 hours to explore all of it. Because, it's not a huge city, but there's quite a lot to see. So how's Knossos to you?
Interesting.
Interesting.
It's really incomprehensible to find people trying to create that long ago.
Yeah. Well, you have the pyramids that were built even further back, though.
Yeah, that's even more crazy.
Yeah, more crazy. But yeah, it's one of the, I think there's 5 or 6 civilizations that are considered the first civilizations, and this is one of it. So we paid €15 per person for the entry here. Right here at the entrance. Although if you are under 25, we think that you have to pay less, but we didn't really ask for the price. And I guess when you are here during midday, this right over here is going to be very satisfying to have. Now let's go get some food. Let's go. Come on. Come on, mates. Now we are in Heraklion, and this is probably my first time to be in Heraklion. I would say, not to say that this is doesn't look good. I mean, it looks nicer. It's just that this is supposed to be the old town, and Athens just really have a much more charming vibe than here, to be quite honest. So it's okay, but I'm glad we stayed in Athens. Now we're going to eat at a restaurant. I was hoping that we would get a Greek restaurant, but unfortunately they don't really seem to be serving much Greek food right here. Most things are closed today for some reason, but it still serves Mediterranean food here. Although I wish we could get them to try some Greek dishes like moussaka, stipato and such. But the food here is very good. How much do you want? How far up?
The typical amount.
Like this?
Straight from the No, come on. Oh, wow, okay.
Alright,
Big dose.
that's good. And then for you?
Yeah, let's go.
Oh yeah, more plum, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's do it.
Yamas.
Cheers, yamas. Good.
Actually not too bad.
Yeah, quite smooth. Now I need to drink a lot of water to get this out of the system as fast as possible. I drove these two fellows here to their hotel, and unfortunately we're going to say bye-bye to them because they're going to stay here while we're leaving tomorrow. So, yeah, bye-bye.
Good, yeah, thanks
Bye-bye.
for everything. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Bye, mate. See you whenever. See you sometime.
Yeah, who
I
knows
hope you
which
maybe
other
come back
country.
to Norway. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring some Vegemite.
Yeah.
That's some baby.
Bye bye. Take care. All right. And now it's for the long, dangerous trip home. Arriving back at the hotel now for the last day. We are leaving in just a few minutes, or more like hours. And I really hope that you enjoyed this trip as much as we did, as you were coming with us. Now, this is definitely not going to be the last time we're going to be in Greece. It's close to my heart, your heart as well.
Yeah, my heart.
Therefore, we're looking forward to another trip sometime in the future. It's a kind of shame in the recent days that, as you can see, it's very wavy here. So basically, you're not allowed to swim, unfortunately. But yeah, as I said, generally it's not really this windy. There's a few things I wish we did more of, like there are a few beaches we never got to visit, such as Preveli, and then there's also one called Calypso. And we never really got to explore more on the east of the island. But that can be something that we can do the next time. We also had a plan to go to Santorini, but it was too expensive. I mean, it wasn't really worth the expenses that we would have to pay at that moment. But maybe off-peak season it will be cheaper. Also, if you're going to stay in anything now, well, check out Evangelina Studios or Hotel Evangelina. As I always say, I really recommend them. And lastly, this restaurant here, Sotos, serves surprisingly good food. The gyros it's okay, not our favorite, but the souvlaki, it's the second best we ever had. But nothing really comes close to the one we had in Hania, which was super simple, and yet it's really one of the best barbecues we've ever had, to be honest. And yeah, the owner there is very friendly, very, very kind and nice guy. And lastly, this is the first time I'm going to drink this one here, Mythos. It says it's Hellenic, so probably somewhere all around Greece. So if you like this video, give it a like and also subscribe to my channel and follow me on Instagram. And your Instagram as well? No. No, yeah. And all I really want to say is thank you a lot, Greece, for welcoming us.
Cheers.
Yamas!